Morning all. The London Chess Classic approaches, and I thought it would be nice to look at a fantastic game of Judit Polgar played in 1994 against Alexei Shirov. Judit Polgar, for those who already don't know, is a Hungarian chess grandmaster, by far the strongest female chess player in history. In 1991, she achieved the title of grandmaster at the age of just 15 and 4 months, the youngest person ever to do so at that time. She was ranked number 36 in the world as of July 2012 FIDE rating list, with a rating of 2709, the only woman in FIDE's top 100 players list, and has been ranked as high as 8th in 2005. She has won or shared first in tournaments such as Hastings 1993, Madrid 1994, Lyon 96, US Open 98, Huygens 1999, Siegmund 1999, Japfa 2000, and the Najdorf Memorial in 2000. She is the only woman player to have won a game from the current number 1 player and has defeated 9 current or former world champions in either rapid or classical chess, and these include Anatoly Karpov, Garry Kasparov, Boris Spassky, Vasily Smyslov, Veselin Topolov, Viswanath Anand, Ruslan Ponomarev, Alexander Kalifin, and Rostam Kazmatov. So let's have a look at this game against Alexei Shirov. Shirov kicked off with e4, and Judith played the Sicilian defence. She is known for highly aggressive openings, has even played in her youth the King's Gambit with some great successes there. In this game, after knight f3, she chooses e6. d4 is played by Alexei Shirov. C takes d4, knight takes d4, and now not attacking white's e-pawn, but instead playing knight c6, which might invite Alexei to consider perhaps a Morphy bind with c4, given he's got a free hand. He doesn't have to protect that pawn, but no, he plays knight c3, and then we see d6. So Judith adopting this Scheveningen structure. Both pawns are flexible to advance in the centre at some point. We see now an early accelerated Keres attack g4, as though knight f6 will just be reacted to with g5, just gaining space on the king side, and with this bishop not yet developed, maybe the bishop can just fianchetto like this on g2. It doesn't have to play to e2 or c4. We see a6, a waiting move, a high class waiting move, which also supports ideas of maybe queen c7 without an interference of knight b5, and then maybe taking later and b5 and bishop b7. So a6 does a number of things. Alexei Shirov plays bishop e3, and we see here knight ge7 sidestepping a potential tempo gainer of g5, and the knight might be useful for getting onto dark squares like these two. Alexei Shirov plays knight b3, and now we do see in this position b5, so that supports the idea that bishop b7 could be useful. Bishop striking on this diagonal. A highly aggressive move now played by Shirov. There's a similar playing style really to Judith. They're both highly aggressive, dynamic players. Shirov known for fire on boards, i.e. very, very complex positions which he's able to often out-calculate his opponents. But here, he's kind of equally matched with a highly aggressive opponent. So f4 is played here. It looks aggressive, as though white might try and cover up some of these weaknesses with bishop g2. Or indeed queen f3 might be useful. But there's a problem positioning that if f5, the dark squares are often weak and opportunities for black are given. We see bishop b7 now, and indeed in this position Shirov prefers now queen f3 over other choices. He might have considered, for example, queen d2, but queen f3 is played, and we get now a highly imaginative move from a positional perspective, increasing the dynamics of the black pieces. I wonder if you can spot it if I give you 10 seconds starting from from now. So black to play. And in the second pass, we'll view this game from black's perspective as well. So what would you play here as black? Okay. Well, it was noted that f5 might carry a strategic risk of the dark squares. This next move is aimed squarely at the dark squares. g5, offering a pawn. To try and get a fantastic knight with tempo now on the queen. So there's an extra bonus of this strong positional move being with tempo. The pawn is taken. Maybe Shirov is thinking this f-file dynamic is going to be very useful. If he can use that f-file later, it could be devastating for black. Knight e5, and the queen now stays on the diagonal, which looks a bit awkward. You might think here the move queen g3 might be interesting, but actually queen g2 is played, and perhaps the reason for that is quite simple actually. Queen g3 might allow b4, and then bishop takes e4. It would be difficult to parry that. b4 is actually a strong threat here now. So the queen coming to g2, and white's still a pawn up, and maybe still potentially has got this f-file counterplay. But now a forcing move. b4 is played anyway. Now after knight e2, we have another exceptionally interesting move played by Judit Polgar here. I wonder if you can spot it if I give you 10 seconds starting from now. Okay. The move is h5. And okay, white has a few options which we really need to check out, like g takes h6 en passant. Is that any good, for example? But in the game, g takes h5 is played, which looks visually good. These pawns could be dangerous. And if rook takes h5, maybe knight f4. So what is Judith up to? Well, now another forcing move is played, making use of a kind of weakness of this last move. A new dynamic has crept into the position. I wonder if you can spot it. Okay, knight f5, hitting bishop, using that newfound pin on the pawn. Now bishop f2 is played, thinking, well, surely, okay, white is just one move away from casting queenside. This bishop is guarding h4. Is there any further problems that white immediately faces? Well, a stunner is played here. Can you guess if I give you 10 seconds starting from now? Okay, queen takes g5, making full use of this knight on e5. If queen takes g5, then a check is very handy. And after the king moves, knight takes, there'll still be a pin on this pawn against the rook. So things are not so clear now. This queen is preventing castling queenside as well. If only white could resolve some of the tactical issues like this pin on this pawn. So he tries knight a5, and now a really, really pretty move is played again in this position. The move knight e3, and here we get a very pretty variation. If queen takes g5, then knight f3 will be mate. That's to be certainly avoided. So white plays queen g3 here, still holding on to f3, and if queen takes, then bishop takes would give white the f2 square for the king if needed, or knight takes would give the king the e2 square if needed. As it happens, Judith did take on g3 here, And now knight takes g3. Okay, so the king has some breathing space, that e2 square against knight f3. But there's another possibility here, of course, which is to win the rook. Knight takes c2 check is played, winning the rook. But it leaves a stranded knight on a1, which could be a real problem. Knight takes b7, and can white get time to win this knight? Well, black's next move here is sharp, b3, trying to rescue the knight, immediately threatening b takes. And the knight is rescued by this, leaving black now an exchange up. White takes on b3, knight takes b3. There's no problem with the knight now. And isn't black the exchange up? For how many pawns, you might ask? The next question. Well, actually, just a raw exchange up. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's been a bit of a disaster. So the exchange down, king c2, knight c5. Okay, Shirov took on c5, d takes. After bishop e1, knight f3, the knight is centralizing. Perhaps d4 now, bishop c3, knight d4 check. After king d3. Now bishop d6 is played, not minding bishop takes d4 at all. Bishop g2 is played here. After bishop e5, securing the knight now. King c4, king e7. After rook a1, knight c6, Shirov has had enough. The bishop's now challenging on that diagonal. Black's still the exchange up for not much compensation. Black's still got a great position. There's also coming up maybe rook b8 or rook d8, but rook b8 would threaten perhaps at some point rook b4, and it looks fairly hopeless for white. He resigned here. A bit of a stunning Sicilian game, how aggressive the Sicilian can be from such positions, stemming from white's seemingly aggressive space gain at f4. Let's check this out. Second pass, but flip the board first. So take Judith's perspective now. In this position, black is about 2 units up, 2 pawns up. So for example, rook a4, rook h d8 is given actually the strongest. Bishop f1, bishop d4, now threatens knight e5. Check. This kind of continuation is fairly hopeless for white. b2 is now under fire. Okay, so let's go back to the start. Sicilian defense with e6, open Sicilian, knight c6, and we see d6, Scheveningen structure. Early Cares attack. After a6, bishop e3, and now knight ge7. The engine likes this move, knight ge7. Among other moves, knight ge7, knight b3, b5. And we see this move f4. The engine actually is mentioning f4 as if there's no issue with it at the moment. Okay, so maybe actually the real technical problem might be this next move, queen f3. Queen f3 is setting up quite a few tactical liabilities for black to potentially exploit here. The queen on the sensitive diagonal is also a tempo gainer if a knight gets to e5, and the engine is really liking the move g5 here, and white's best is actually to just ignore g5. So g5 really strikes at the queen's position on f3 to make advantage of that. So if white's best is castling queenside, let's say g takes, queen takes, knight g6, black's virtually equalised from a slight inaccuracy, it seems, or even better here, the dark square control, the nice supported knight on e5, and even h5 might be possible here, not even that keen to castle The engine's not that keen to castle on the king side. Just play this position on the dark squares. It looks very nice for black. So coming back, so g5, things are starting to look not so rosy for white's attacking opportunities. After f takes g, I guess we're going to see an evaluation drop for white. Virtually equal after knight e5 and a certain depth. Queen goes to g2. So as we mentioned in the first pass, queen g3 can be answered strongly by b4 here, and then just taking on e4. Let's imagine bishop g2, just taking on g2. Knight d5. Black's doing very nicely indeed. Very nice position. Look at these knights, they're very pretty in the centre here. So let's go back. So knight e5, queen g2. Now this move h5 is mentioned by the engine as well. h5. Really aggressive move, h5. I wonder if we give the engine more depth, it sees the conception even more. Mind you, it is coming up with some moves we're seeing here, like knight f5 in the game. So h5 is played. b4 might be interesting as well. Pardon me. Pardon me. In this position, in fact, b4 and h5 are both the two top candidates, and in the game it wasn't h5 immediately here, it was actually b4 first. So b4, the knight went to e2 here, and now again we see h5 as a strong candidate, and also a positional move, knight 7 to g6 as another idea. So for example, knight 7 to g6, let's say h4, h5 here, g takes, rook takes, bishop f2, queen c7. Black's got a pleasant looking position, but in the game it was a lot more aggressive with this move h5. And now the engine actually really likes h5, as though, oh, it's much better than actually knight g6. If we look at this, it's now promoted this candidate once it's been shown h5 to investigate further. So there's some juice to be flying from h5 here. G takes h5 is played. In fact, the engine prefers more cautious moves, castling queenside, just offering up g4 or knight g3, but it seems black is already better now. If castling queenside, you might think knight g4, but actually that's not that hot. Bishop d4, and it's not so clear here. In fact, probably much better is apparently h takes g4 at a certain depth. hg4, just keeping that knight on e5. So anyway, Shirov didn't want that. He just took this pawn. Now we see a string of very dangerous, indeed forcing moves. Knight f5, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes to f2. And now this powerful move, queen takes g5. Let's look at this continuation. If white took on g5, check, taking, we have that horrendous pin on e4. If white gives up the exchange, it's not really very good. Basically the exchange down. Bishop e3, knight e4. It's pleasant being the exchange up there. So knight a5 was chosen, and now it's really lost, in fact, after knight a5 from an engine point of view, this position. So in fact, maybe technically queen takes g5 is the best try, just to accept he's absolutely worse, but knight a5 just plummets white's position into dust here. After knight a5 we see knight e3, very powerful stuff. So if takes knight f3 as mate, let's look at that beauty again. The aesthetics here of the two knights like this, absolutely beautiful. So queen takes g5, queen g3 was played, which technically is the strongest move. Just offering the exchange like this, it was better to offer the exchange on h1. So queen takes g3 first was played. Does it matter about queen takes g3 or knight takes c2? Why would this be technically stronger, out of interest? In this position, actually the engine finds a very interesting move. queen takes h5. So the idea here now is king takes, then the bishop takes e4 and bishop takes h1. So this position is not very pleasant at all. It looks like a disaster. And with knight takes b7, knight takes a1, maybe it's a slight improvement over the game. But an exchange up is an exchange up, so the knight is played. Then winning the exchange like this. Okay, knight takes b7. Knight battle. Apparently c8 is playable here. So b3 is logical though, enough. King c2, we see knight c5. That's really just the exchange up. And also white has double pawns as well. Black's got good dark square control. Knight f3, centralizing the knight. One question here after bishop d6. If bishop takes d4, let's try and regain a pawn for white. In this position it really doesn't matter. I think king e7. So let white regain that pawn. There's good dark square control, and the king's really in trouble on d4 now after bishop f4. So this looks great for black. Okay, so in the game that was ignored. He wanted to keep the bishop pair for a little bit longer. But bishop e5, strong, simple. Connecting rooks with king e7. Knight c6. In fact, here white resigned. So it shows incredible aggressive play from a Sicilian. Who would have imagined the Sicilian being so aggressive in this game? From feeding off basically white's aggression with that early f4 move and the queen on f3. These tempo gaining resources given to a very resourceful opponent, they're tapped into for huge advantages with a combination of forcing moves and sacrifices. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that one, and we look forward to seeing Judit Polgar playing in the London Classic coming up next week. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.